Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Swell podcast. Today, I'm here with Danielle Gustafson, and she is a broker associate with Sotheby's International Realty. So thank you for being here today and being our second guest.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you playing along with us.
And we're here again with Chip McGraw as well. So we got everyone here today for a very fun episode. So Danielle, if you just want to start off with this being your first time on the podcast, just tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got into real estate.
Sure. I am originally from Arizona, and I grew up being dragged to every open house under the sun. And a little different in Arizona with the big developments. You know, there's always a gimmick involved with them. So there was hot air balloon rides and horseback rides, and even one helicopter ride. So my dad, when we were little, would bring us to these open houses. I'm not sure if he was in it for the free lunch or to actually buy a house, but he did quite a bit of real estate investing himself. So real estate's kind of in my blood. And came to St. Augustine for Flagler College and started in real estate then. Actually, I was the assistant to the sales director for two of the leading premier communities here in St. Augustine, Anastasia Dunes and Sea Colony. So it was really never a question whether I would get into real estate. Got my license then, and now I've been in the industry for 24 years and absolutely love it. And I live here locally at St. Augustine Beach, have two awesome sons, and loving life.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I went to Flagler too, and so did Chip, so Flagler alumni represent.
That's right. Go Flagler, go Saints. Here, we got my cup today.
Yeah, you do.
Sporting my Flagler cup.
You do. So how is the St. Augustine real estate different from maybe other cities in Florida?
Well, I don't have to tell you that St. Augustine's super unique, right? We don't have high rises. We don't have the crazy packed beaches and traffic. And, you know, really the way that we're set up is we will always be a small town. We have St. Augustine Beach and that kind of fun 60s vibe. And then we have downtown, and that draws a certain demographic. And nobody's really here because they have to be. People are here because they choose to be. And that makes for a whole lot of really awesome go-getters and entrepreneurs and creatives. And that's amazing to be around. So our market is different. You know, we're not catering to corporate. We're not catering to people who are forced to live here. It's all a lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all have chosen to live here. I certainly have chosen to live here. I mean, our business doesn't even really revolve around anyone here in this community. I mean, we're part of the community and we love it. So we love having people like you on that are part of the community and, friends. But, we're here because we want to be here, and I think that's so many people from Flagler College and staying because they just love being here. And although a lot of times we make some sacrifices financially to be here, it's a great place to be. Although it is changing rapidly for the good or for the worse, I don't know. But, we have been kind of invaded by many people from other places. But, yeah, secrets out definitely. And I think finally, in my opinion, the real estate here has been undervalued for a long time. And I think it's finally coming around to, which is, for those of us that live here and work here, it's definitely pricing a lot of people out of the market, but it's certainly, like you said, secrets out. People definitely are hip to St. Augustine, what it has to offer, and our prices have definitely gone up, real estate price-wise, at least.
Yeah, I'm curious because you said you've been doing real estate for 23 years? 24 years. Okay, wow. So how have you seen the industry change since you first started to now? I'm sure there's been so many changes, but...
Okay, so I'm almost 44 years old. And when I started in real estate, I didn't have a computer in my house. I did not have internet in my house. I actually walked to the office, because it was only a few blocks away, to look at the book to see what the inventory was in real estate, right? A printed book. I mean, there was MLS online, but not everybody had computers. So pretty cool, the transition in that. And now that it's like instantaneous information all the time. We have Zillow shooting us messages, all sorts of text messages, instant updates, where we had to go out and find the properties. Same thing with buyers and sellers. I mean, I remember handwriting contracts and actually looking at other realtors and delivering contracts huge difference. And can you imagine what it would be like to set up like 9 or 10 showings and have to go to each individual office and pick up the keys and then deliver them afterward, because there weren't key boxes, right? It was physical keys. So lots of changes in the industry. And that's just the logistical changes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I look on Zillow for fun now. And I'm like, I wonder what's out there. Oh, this beach house that's like $7 million that I can't afford. Looks cool though.
But you get a peek into someone's life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How they're living and yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of like the biggest challenges you think real estate agents are facing right now?
Well, depends on what level you're asking the question. So personally, with that information overload and always being expected to be on it, whether you're on social media or you're chasing a buyer, chasing a seller, whatever it is you're doing, personally, challenge is burnout. Really having to have strong boundaries, clear intentions, clear priorities so that you don't burn out. And it is a really competitive industry. So getting your footing in, knowing who you are, knowing your market, all of those are incredibly important to your success on a personal level. Market level, we have companies coming in that are offering discount services and discount service, discounted rates. So that's another challenge, is that sometimes people are penny pinchers and they don't see the value in having somebody with the experience, with the connectedness, knowing off-market opportunities, knowing who to call when there's a problem, not taking no for an answer and actually getting the problem resolved. So, there's a multitude of challenges, as always. It's just a challenging profession.
Yeah, I feel like, you said the industry is so saturated. What would your advice be to those that want to start out in real estate but aren't really sure, where to start? I'm sure making connections is important, but what advice would you give to those people?
Well, this is going to sound a little woo-woo, but you got to know yourself. You have to know what you're good at. You have to know what your niche is, how you connect with people, what your priorities are. And in that, people will come to you and your buyers and sellers will find you. But it's just really being clear in your communication, clear in what you're offering, knowing what sets you apart from everyone else. Because I can tell you, I get calls probably 4 or 5 a week from people I know saying, I'm getting into real estate. Can I work with you? And I wish everybody the highest level of success, but I can almost tell who's going to make it and who isn't. It's tenacity. You have to know and you have to commit, and it's the long haul.
Yeah, so I was in real estate at one time, as well, and although never really at the level that Danielle is with residential real estate, sold, abroad and did commercial, and I've been an investor myself. But a lot of people, I think, really don't understand the complexity and how difficult it is and how much work it is to be a realtor. They just think, oh, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to make millions of dollars on all these transactions. Look at the commissions you make. But there's a heck of a lot involved. And so,
yeah, I feel like a lot of self-discipline.
Tremendous amount of self-discipline, because no one's looking over your shoulder telling you what to do. You have to be really a self-starter. And you have to go out and do it. And it takes money. It takes your own money. You have to invest your own money. And no one's paying you any money until you make a sale. So you got to be really connected, have a great network, be willing to go out to your network and ask for people to send you their friends and referrals. And, obviously, like Danielle said, really having a really good, clear message about what you're offering and what sets you apart, because there's a zillion cookie cutter people out there jumping in to just, push out the next piece of marketing, So, I think, Danielle, what I've seen that sets you apart is really having a very genuine, desire to really help people, find the right perfect thing for them. Like you said, not taking no for an answer, always, making things happen. So those are all good qualities. I think you have to be very successful. And you would know better than me as you're doing it every day, but just from what I've seen, and I know that there's over 1,000 realtors in this county, and just in one county, we're not the biggest county in the world either. So, I think it's a tough business. It's a really tough business, but it is one that can be, I think, in my mind, very rewarding. You have a lot of, ability to control your own destiny.
Absolutely. And your own time.
But it can also eat up all your time.
Every second, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
to keep it.
So you said you're a mother. So how do you balance being a mom and, this real estate business that you have? How do you balance it all?
Well, I put them to work. No, seriously, I've got one of my kids stuffing envelopes. I have one of my kids carrying signs, but they get it. Their dad is also in real estate. So they're just born into the industry, and they understand that I can go anywhere in the world with them and I can take them on amazing adventures, but I'm also a little tied to my phone. And there are parts that can't wait. And they understand that. And they also reap the rewards of the flexibility. So they are my first priority, always. There's nothing more important than my children. But yeah, they tag along. They go. When they were little, they were along for showings, and they know the game.
That's fun. And I know, Chip, too, you're a father, you have a business. I'm sure it can be a challenge sometimes to juggle all of that, especially, demanding clients and...
Yeah. Well, at least when we're in our business, that we deal with other businesses, we're B2B for the most part. So people don't really expect you to answer the phone and respond over the weekend. But when you're in real estate, you will have to respond all hours of the day and night and every single day. If someone needs you to do something on Sunday and there's an opportunity that you got to show someone a house or you got to write a contract or you're dealing with something, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. You have to be on it constantly. So it's definitely a grind. And so I have that much respect for, realtors, successful realtors like yourself, because you really are like fully committed to your job. And it does, I know from experience, and I'm glad I don't do it myself anymore. But but it is a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun. But it is a serious grind, and to be successful at it, you have to have a serious commitment to it. Serious commitment.
It's so rewarding, though. You are helping people with their biggest investment, their home, or, whether it's a commercial building or just an investment. And they have to trust you. You have to know who you are, and you have to be in full integrity and honesty to have them trust you like that. So it's so very rewarding to watch somebody have a dream and then watch that dream become reality. That's the best payment in the world.
I know we talked a lot about, setting yourself apart in this industry. So how do you think that you set yourself apart?
Integrity. And I don't mean that other realtors don't have integrity. I have the honor of working with people on a daily basis with the utmost integrity. But there's no commission worth questioning my tactics behind it. And I am a complete straight shooter. Whether or not that person wants to hear the honest truth, I'm going to tell them. And in that creates a lot of trust, right? So combine that with, not taking no for an answer. If they want to do this project and they can't get it done this way, we're going to find a way to do it. So understanding that there are many paths to the same goal, and knowing who to call, being connected. When I call the building department director, he answers, "What's up, Danielle?" And he gives me a cell phone number. And those little connections of establishing myself and them and showing them that I'm professional and I'm going to see this through, that makes all the difference in a transaction.
So in the state of Florida, it's your transactional brokerage, transaction agent. You're not really representing the buyer or the seller.
Representing the transaction.
Right? So how does that, and in other states are different, right? Some states you have to be a buyer's agent or a seller.
And you can do that in Florida too. I opt not to. But yes, you can as well.
Okay. So, but how does that work in Florida with those types of transactions? Educate us and our viewers a little bit more about how that works.
So you're representing the transaction. So many times I work with both the buyer and the seller on a property, and I owe them both the same service. I owe them both honesty. I owe them both confidentiality. So if a buyer tells me what they're willing to pay and a seller tells me what they're willing to sell for, I can't disclose it to the other one, nor would I ever. But I can certainly, encourage the deal of, let's make a counteroffer, let's do this, let's do that. And in that way, I can help them get to their goal, both the buyer and the seller at the same time.
Good. Awesome.
That's good to know. My education in real estate is obviously, not going to be where your guys' is. But I'm also curious, too, you started out pretty young in real estate. And was there a moment in your career where you thought to yourself, I can actually make this my career. I can make a living out of doing real estate?
Never an option. it was never an option. I started investing really young as well. I scrapped together every penny that I had and bought a condominium at 21 years old. And I made $60,000 on the sale of that condominium. And that to me was everything. That $60,000 spurred buying a lot in Anastasia Dunes and the development that I was selling. And then an investment in Nosara, Costa Rica that turned into an investment in Aspen, Colorado, and an investment in Bocas del Toro, Panama. So that one investment, because I so much believed in real estate. But that's not my success in selling real estate. It's just that I absolutely believe in the investment. And you can't sell something you don't believe in, right? So being able to show up and say, hey, listen, it works like this, and do it from a place of experience makes all the difference. So there was never a question whether or not I was going to be in real estate. It's in my blood.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very admirable. At 21 years old, you did that. Did you have a lot of adversity or people looking at you, in a certain way because you were so young and you were a girl, I'm sure?
Well, in buying my first condo, nobody would take me seriously. They wouldn't show me the property. And then finally, and I'm still friends with him to this day, I found a gentleman who kind of became like a father figure to me. And he took me around and I looked at everything under the sun. And I must have made 25 really crappy offers thinking that I was going to get a deal. And then reality hit and I just wanted to buy something. So, I paid the price. But yeah, absolutely. Establishing credibility was incredibly challenging at, 20 something years old when selling real estate. But it was just showing up again and again and again. And that one person who believed in me, and the first property I ever sold, I couldn't even find it. St. Augustine's confusing because there's the shores and the south and there's Shore Drive, and I'm driving around with him and I can't find the condominium. And we go back to the office because this, I don't have a phone to look at for directions. I don't have anybody to call. I don't even think I had a cell phone. I go back to the office and he went to an open house and he came back and he said, I enjoyed working with you so much. Please write the offer for me.
Thank goodness for that. That's awesome. Yeah, I think it goes to show the importance of just having that one person that believes in you. Having that mentor, I think, is so important no matter, what field you're in.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think, going back to your first investment in real estate, buying your first condo and making that $60,000 on that first deal. I mean, I had a kind of a similar story where I bought my first condo, townhouse at 24, 25, somewhere around there. And that first transaction, I made $139,000 after 2 years. So, yes, and people ask me all the time, well, hey, how do I, start a business? I want to do a side hustle. People ask me side hustles. I always tell them, invest in real estate. Figure out how to buy your own house. I have bought and sold my own houses that I lived in many, many times. I think my wife and I have owned 40 properties together that and most of them we lived in. A lot of them we lived in because you can, it's the best transaction you can make either as an individual or a married couple because you don't have to pay any capital gains, zero taxes if you live in the house for 2 years. Basically, if you're a single individual, you can get up to $250,000, I believe, tax-free. And as a married couple, $500,000 tax.
That's a huge benefit.
Money that you're just not paying taxes on. And yes, and in real estate, it can go down too. But I mean, if you're living in it, you got to live somewhere, right? So it's, I've made the most money in my entire life just buying and selling my own houses that I lived in. I've made more money doing that than anything else. So I would really highly recommend that, if you're interested at all in real estate or making money, just go for it. And it's not as hard as people think it is. It's really
scary, but
it's scary. It's a commitment, but it's, if there's a will, there's a way to do it. Really, there's a lot of creative ways to buy property. Yeah. So I'm a big believer too in real estate investment. That's probably, I really don't invest in much else. So
right.
A little bit other stuff, but mainly real estate.
Tangible assets. And I'm seeing that more and more right now, especially, we keep hearing that the market's going to slow down because interest rates are rising. But actually, in my business, the exact opposite has occurred. People are taking their money out of other investments, out of savings accounts, and putting it into tangible investments like real estate, something that they can hold on to and they can see. So, yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of the market, I was looking at some data actually yesterday, and a lot of indicators out there showing that there's going to be some definitely adjustments and correction in the marketplace. The amount of listings is up, the inventory's up, and there's been a lot more reductions in prices, meaning that listings are being reduced, and inventories are up in certain zip codes. Although our little beach here seems to be somewhat insulated from that. What are your thoughts on what's going to happen when the market? If you had a crystal ball, what do you?
Love to have a crystal ball. Absolutely. I think that, and I say this a lot, pricing is an art and a science, and you can miss the mark completely. But if you price a property intelligently, you're going to have multiple offers. And case in point, I just listed a lot on A1A South and had that exact experience last week. So there are a lot of price reductions, and those people who listed their properties for sale and went with the old method of, well, let me list 10% higher than the last sale. Well, they're reducing, and they're going to have to continue reducing, and it takes them out of the driver's seat, out of the power seat as a seller. So even though it may not seem advantageous to list at or below the last sale, in fact, you'll end up selling for more.
Right. Yeah. And pricing appropriately. The way I like to think about it is, if you leave a little bit on the table for somebody else, you're always going to have a better transaction normally. If you're always shooting for like the stars, and, look, in a hot market when you got a zillion people trying to buy and not a lot of inventory, I mean, go for it. But like, as the market's cooling and that's a lot that's driven by interest rates. The thing is, here in St. Augustine Beach, we got a lot of cash buyers. It's an anomaly of some sort, so it's not as dependent on people getting mortgages that might be, your middle market kind of people that are buying houses at the median range of the market, that are dependent on getting, 80 or 90% financing or more. Those sales are 100% driven by interest rates, right? And that payment totally depends on interest rates. And when interest rates go up as high as they are now, and sometimes that's affecting someone's ability to purchase a house that could have bought at $400,000 and now can only buy at $300,000. So that's going to drive those prices down in the marketplace. But St. Augustine Beach just seems to be a little bit different. But, and I don't think we're in any kind of situation like we were in 2008 or 2009. It's a totally different scenario. Although back then I was in real estate pretty heavily, and although in a different country, in Costa Rica, and I remember my father, who was in finance and banking, telling me, hey man, I think you're about to see some major stuff go on. And I remember telling him vividly, no, you're wrong. Real estate in Nassau and Costa Rica, this is a commodity and it's never going to get down. But it did. It went down big time went down.
I was living there then.
Right there. So it went down in a big way, but it came back, a tremendous rally, now, and it's just crazy. And if I would have told you 20 years ago what you could have bought a house here in St. Augustine Beach for, you would be shooting yourself right now that you didn't buy them, because
absolutely,
the house that was $200,000 is over $1 million. So it's crazy how things go, and things are cyclical and they go up and down, and we'll see where things end up later this year. I think there's still a lot of things to unfold with the real estate market.
Well, there's one guarantee: they're not making any more land. So there's not going to be any more land in St. Augustine.
This is very true. And there were so many vacant lots, 10 years ago at the beach that are now all been gobbled up for the most part.
There's so much construction over there.
I just ran the stats, and I might be a little skewed on this because I haven't gone through the database completely, but looking for vacant land for a project that I'm working on, and I think there's something like less than 1,000 vacant lots, residential and commercial, on the island.
Right.
Less than 1,000. I mean, if you think about that, on the entire island, on all Anastasia Island.
So Davis Shores all the way
down to, yeah. That's not a lot of land left.
I don't know, it's not. You had mentioned that you had worked on both, was it Anastasia Dunes and Sea Colony, right? So both of those were built by McGarvey, right? Those are both McGarvey communities. And, we did a bit of work, marketing McGarvey communities, and they're really great communities. He's a great developer. That had to be a pretty neat experience as your first kind of foray into real estate marketing.
It really was. It really was. And, I was the assistant to the sales director. So I sat in the office, met with people, helped with the contracts, got to walk the properties. I was actually the first person to close on a lot in Anastasia Dunes. So that was pretty exciting. But yeah, it was fascinating.
What actually in the sales prices were those lots back then?
$90,000 were. Yeah. I bought mine for $90,000.
There's probably one listed in there right now for 400 or something around there, right?
High trees, yeah.
And so that was in 90,000 was in what year, 2004 or something?
I'm going to say I closed on that probably right around then. Yeah. That would make sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there you go. 4 times, 400% return, 400% return. Okay. So.
But when the market crashed, it dipped right back down to that $90,000 rate.
In like 2011.
But never lower than the initial offering price.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been even in like 2011. I remember moving back here in 2012 and prices were really low, right around 2012. And so, but even at the time, there were not many transactions, but it's pretty good.
Good return. Yeah.
It's a good return.
It's a long haul.
And there's always deals to be had. Example is just back in early January, into December, we actually closed on the property at the very beginning of January. We bought a property for $420,000 that we sold 3 months later for $475,000. So, and here we are in a crazy market, but there was a deal. It was an off-market deal. Knowing realtors and people that have those off-market deals and just bird dogging and digging, anybody can really go out and find an opportunity in real estate.
There's always, as long as you're working with somebody who's very well connected, there are always opportunities.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah. All about connection.
That was a great one too.
E Street, F Street, yeah. Yeah, so just knowing the zoning and seeing these lots come up for an initial offering, told him, don't ask questions, just buy this. And he did. And he bought it for $215,000 and sold it 2 years later, for $500,000.
Wow, that's yeah, that is. I'm like, I need to start investing in real estate after this conversation. Like,
well, I mean, I think it's I'm telling you, it is the number one, in my opinion, and I think there's many other people that share that same opinion, that it is buying your own house. Although, a lot of times you don't put your own house on your balance sheet if you're like kind of creating, like looking at what your net worth is, but a lot of people don't consider the value of their house and their net worth. But I think it is the number one way to generate wealth, is literally just buying your own property, and then you can always borrow against it and then leverage that into another property. You got to live somewhere. So,
and rent is expensive.
Rent is very expensive now.
Yeah, I'm renting right now. I just graduated college in May, and I'm like, these prices are insane. Like, at this point, I might as well like buy a house.
And even though the interest rates are high, I wouldn't personally let that interfere with my ability to buy something. Like when I bought my first house, I think the interest rates were about 7%. That was like 6 to 7% was the normal interest rate. We've been in such a low interest rate environments for so long that people forgot that was not really normal. Those interest rates were held down, by the government specifically to help, economic growth. But
don't wait for those again.
Oh, they're not coming back. They're not coming back. And you're not going to see that again. I mean, maybe we'll get down to a 4 or 5% interest rate, but I don't think you're going to see these 2 and 3% interest rates in if ever again. Never say never, but buying your own house, especially as a first-time home buyer, there's so many great opportunities out there to get in with very little money down. You just need good credit and a good job, and that's really all it takes. And you can always get creative. So
I've said many, many times over the course of owning the home that I'm in now is that home gave me roots and wings. The ability to do so many other things by taking an equity line out, whether it was for improving that house or an adventure or another property.
Right. That's true. Because sometimes I feel, I'm only 23. It's like, do I want to buy a house? Like, do I want to feel tied down? But you were saying it also gave you wings too.
Absolutely.
So just like I say, there's so many opportunities. If you buy a property, it goes up in value. You don't necessarily have to sell it to realize any gains. You can actually you can borrow the money against the equity in the home. You can then take that money that you borrowed and go buy another home, or, other types of assets invested in something else. You can pull out and invest it. You can use it for home improvements to then improve the value of your home that you eventually want to sell. Or, maybe you've lived in it, then you decide you want to go on somewhere else and you rent it. And then you've got, as long as that rent will cover your mortgage, now you have someone else paying for that property and you're basically reaping the benefits of it with no money out of your pocket. Obviously, you got to pay maintenance and taxes and insurance and things like that. And, there's still a risk of you losing a tenant, and you need to be able to make sure you have appropriate reserves to be able to, cover that. Those times you have to change over or do things to the house. But having that ability to, there's nothing, I don't think there's any other better way to get started and building wealth than buying your own home. Yeah. So no matter where you are, and I'm not being St. Augustine, I'm not going to be in St. Augustine. I can tell you there's probably a very small chance that you would have a bad investment buying something in St. Augustine based on the trajectory of where growth is going and in this town, this county, There again, though, you want to make sure you buy the right place. Location is always important in real estate, and not being in a hurry, and buying. I've always been fortunate enough that I was able to find deals that I could improve myself. So, when I first started investing in real estate, I did the work myself. I painted the house, I did the tile, I learned how to do that stuff. And so, when you're young and you have time and you can do these things yourself, and not always going and say, hey, I'm going to buy the bright new shiny one that just got built. That's probably not.
Don't buy that one.
That's probably not where you're going to make a good return. The one is to find the worst house on a good street, and then make the improvements to that one over time as you live there, and then rent it out or sell it, move on to another one.
And work with somebody who doesn't need to make the sale. Work with somebody who does not count their volume, is not out there to be top producer, is not out there trying to beat everyone else. They're there to help you. They're there to be honest with you. They're there to find the hidden details of the house because they care about your future more than they care about making a sale. Yeah. It's so critical.
Yeah, good realtor can really help you. Absolutely, 100%. Making sure that, you're protected in the transaction, that you are not overlooking any potential pitfalls or problems that the property might have, making sure they guide you through the process of, the appraisal, inspection, making sure that you're protected in the contract, that, in case you can't get your financing, you can still back out, things like that. The contingencies that you'll need, and a good realtor will help you guide you through that process. So Danielle, switching gears a little bit, so you recently, you're a bit of an entrepreneur. I know you're a realtor, a real estate person, but you're a bit of an entrepreneur. You're out there trying to, shake it up and do some business, and a bit of a leader, as well with your team, and you've recently kind of made a change in your business. Do you want to talk about that change?
Yeah, we partnered with Sotheby's International Realty, and it was a huge and challenging transition going from family-owned business to a globally recognized brand. And, came to the point where marketing is my thing. I really, really enjoy all aspects of real estate, but marketing is my strong suit. And I realized that I had hit my capacity with my abilities. And as humbling as that is, I needed to do better for my clients. And came across the opportunity to partner with One and just up the level of our marketing, up our global recognition, now part of a recognized luxury brand of real estate, and have this amazing marketing team behind us. So it's been a great transition in upping our marketing game.
And we're One being the franchisee, right? One, is that the name of the franchise?
One is a subsidiary, I guess, of Sotheby's International Realty. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so where are the other One offices?
So we are now located up and down the entire east coast of Florida. And as for Sotheby's, we're in 81 countries. 81 countries. So it's become, I'm an avid traveler. It is my thing. And it has become not only a business expense, but really educational to go to different offices around the world and learn what works for them. How are they positioning their properties? What can I take back to my own market and apply to my listings? It's been fascinating.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you said you're an avid traveler, how does that impact, the way that you do your business?
I often get overwhelmed by the daily minutia of life. So being able to take those breaks and step away from the daily grind is critical to my success. I have to take a step back, connect with my children, connect with nature, connect with other people, away from the tasks, the paperwork, all of that. So I'm able to do all of that ahead of time and position myself to just deal with the critical details while I'm gone. And from that perspective, I'm able to pull back the telescope, get a reset. And if I'm ever slow in business, all I have to do is book an international plane ticket, and guaranteed I have all the business coming my way I could ever handle. Problem solved. I'll book a ticket. But
It's just Murphy's Law.
Absolutely. But I do love learning from other markets. I love learning about their economy. I love learning about the real estate systems, of the land ownership rights of locals. I love learning about foreign investment there, and then of course the marketing side and really learning. I mean, there's a realtor that she knows she's a mentor to me. She's in Aspen, Colorado, and I've learned so much just by watching her, and just learning the people that you want to align with and you want to emulate.
Yeah, and speaking about international real estate, I mean, you and I both did a little stint in Costa Rica doing real estate, but we doing stuff internationally, there's the good and the bad and the problems. And so, I mean, we know that, you made this investment in Panama. You and I have had this conversation before, and, I actually invested a little in Panama at one time too, and it was very challenging. And do you want to speak just a little bit about the challenge that you had in Panama and making, any advice you have to anybody looking to buy real estate internationally?
Absolutely. So I purchased 2 gorgeous acres of waterfront in Panama. And when the market crashed here, I sold it and owner financed it. And because this gentleman who bought it knew all the loopholes, all the laws, he was able to kind of finagle the contract. So it was ambiguous if he actually owed money or if he didn't. Long story short, 7 years in the Panamanian court systems, and all I can say is get the best attorney ever. Pay the extra money for the better attorney, because my own attorney missed this little loophole. And she even said later, wow, I missed that. I would still do it. In a heartbeat, I would do it again. If nothing else, it tied me to the country to keep exploring, keep making connections, and keep enjoying the place that I love so much. But yeah, had a little bit of a struggle with that one. But
It just goes back to making sure you have a professional look.
Absolutely.
Whether in those countries, there are realtors and many other countries that work very similar to the way we work here, or realtors work here in the U.S. But what I found in Central America specifically is that you really need a really good attorney. I mean, attorneys close all the deals there. As here you can also have an attorney close a deal for you, but most time in residential transactions, you're using a title company. But abroad, very important. I think I would agree. Have a good attorney.
But that was one, challenging story after a few different success stories. So,
You're going to have a few setbacks. Yeah, and here at McGraw, we're a HubSpot Gold Solutions partner. So we use HubSpot to, manage our marketing, our sales, and our service. And I'm curious, is there any technologies that you use in your day-to-day that have helped you with your real estate business?
That's a great question. Well, yeah,
I put you on the spot there.
Technology now, right? Silly as this is, Canva changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. Canva. Going from trying to piecemeal together flyers in a Word document, anything like that, to Canva being able to put them all together. And now with one, we have a different app that just automates the whole thing, and everything's fed. And I have a concierge service where I can text them, please do this for me, and I get it back that day. And marketing director that I need an entire presentation done, and she does it, and it's beautiful. So yeah, absolutely.
That's a big help, right? You don't have to do that anymore. But we're very familiar with Canva. I think you.
Yeah, I use Canva a lot. Yeah, every day, all day, every day. I basically live in Canva, so
I'm not alone there. I still go back to it. I still love it. But yeah,
that's fun. Fun app, fun piece of software that really has made doing graphics and putting together presentations way easier than it used to be.
Yeah, and just making things aesthetically pleasing. So. Well,
what do you think about, one last question? I know you're not a huge tech person, really, but But what do you think about all this stuff with AI and what people are talking about how to use it in real estate? Have you had a chance to look into it? Probably been bombarded with some of this stuff, but what do you think? What do you think?
I think that it can serve a beautiful purpose for people who are challenged in their writing and don't know how to position a property. I played around with it a little bit, and the results were okay, but it's not the same as a human touch. It just isn't. It wasn't the same as somebody who knows every aspect of that property and could beautifully and eloquently put together a marketing piece to help a buyer envision the property. So just on that aspect, it will serve its purpose.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with AI and looking at data, and there's going to be we'll say it's scary in a lot of ways, but I think there's going to be a lot of changes in the real estate business as well as there's a lot of businesses out there. But I think AI is going to have a very specific role in at least data and predictive analytics and things like that on trying to find, those who will figure out how to use it will probably use it to their benefit in a massive way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I know everyone's afraid that AI is going to take people's jobs, but I think, it's going to come down to us to have to learn how to use it. And the people that know how to use it are going to be the ones, that are going to have the jobs. So it's not going to take away jobs, I don't think, but you also, the human touch too is so important, like you were saying.
But if you look back in history, and there are a lot of realtors that I work with that have not adapted along the way, in any industry, you have to constantly adapt, whether it's learning how to, create PDFs and send them via text message or whatever it is. It's constant adaptation. I know this is much larger than that, but we're always learning. And if we're not growing. So we have to adapt.
Exactly.
And so one last thing, I know you've been working on a new office.
Yes.
Yeah, how close, are you getting close to having this new office?
It's been a painstakingly long renovation. It's 301 A1A across from Embassy Suites. My business partner and I, so Kate Mitchell and I, purchased this property, a little historic, concrete, gorgeous little cottage, and changed it from residential to commercial for our office. And I would say we're probably about 2 months away from completion at this point, but I thought it was going to take us 2 months in total. So we're about 6 months over at this point. Yeah.
That's tough.
I think I know what place you're talking about, right by Little Margie.
Exactly. First thing you see when you come onto the beach. Yeah.
That's a good spot.
Thank you. I'm so excited about it. Kate is an expert eye in design, and she has painstakingly put together every detail. She was there on a Saturday afternoon measuring to see where the lights go in relation to the mirrors, and I don't operate like that. So it's been a great partnership, and it's going to be a great building.
No, sure, it's going to be spectacular. So where do people find you? Where do they find you? If they need help with real estate in St. Augustine, how do they find you?
Well, my cell phone number, you can always text me. I'm really good at responding to text messages. And then on social, St. Augustine Luxury. And then, yeah.
St. Augustine Luxury.
St. Augustine Luxury. Yeah, that's my website as well, St. Augustine Luxury.
StAugustineLuxury.com. Okay. Is that StAugustineLuxury.com?
Yep.
Okay, StAugustineLuxury.com. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Danielle. So nice meeting you and having you on the podcast. So, yeah, thank you so much.